Hi everyone, Roger here from Ask Our Experts YouTube channel, and I'm going to replace the valve cover on this N55 engine. I'm going to show you the torque specs, all the cool tips and tricks that I know, and I've watched a couple of other videos just to see what kind of information was out there, and they've called everything wrong. The Valvetronic motor wiring, someone called it a vacuum port. So I'm just going to go over a very comprehensive install on the N55 and hopefully make this the best video out there to help everyone do this yourself at home. Dealer cost for this install is upwards of $1,800. Hey, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let me know what you think of this repair. Plus I got some bonus spark plugs to install too. You might be asking yourself why I have so much space under here. Well, I'm using these hood extenders. See if I can find someone else that sells these, but you can pick them up from BMW. I'll put a part number and a link, if I can find it, in the description box, or at least a part number. And you just pop off your hood props right here, and you add these hood extenders, and it lifts up the hood open and really opens everything up. It's a great way to do any repairs on your engine. Hey there, little guy. Out of my way. All right, we gotta get to the battery because we want to disconnect the negative cable. You're gonna need a 10 millimeter. Just go ahead and loosen your negative cable and wiggle that off and tuck it aside so it doesn't pop back on, because if your injectors kick on because you open a door and you have the fuel lines off, you'll spray fuel everywhere. It could get in your eyes. It could set up for a very bad situation if that happens. So disconnect that negative cable. We're also going to have to disconnect this cable here to give us access by lifting everything over the top. With the battery disconnected, you'll have no power here at this point. The vanity cover on a N55 just lifts up. This is an F30 3 Series. It just has rubber pieces that suction down onto these guys right here. Cleanliness is very important when you're doing a valve cover, and there's a lot of just random dirt and debris in here. So we're going to take all our perimeter covers off and open this all up, and then with some shop air blow everything out. Alright, real quick, we'll just start with this rubber piece right here. This actually is just press fit into this piece, and then there's a power cable that's run into this groove. We're just going to just peel that right out and just put that out of the way. We're going to take these panels off here using a 10 millimeter. You just turn them about 90 degrees to release them. This one's already released, and we should be able to lift this up, pop it up here, and this cover will come right off. Let's do the same thing on the other side. We do have to remove the support brace right here. So under this rubber piece right here, this grommet, just use a small screwdriver, is another E-Torx. And there's one on each side. And you can make a mental note. There's your part number. So it ends in 078, that's the passenger side. And this one ends in 077. And if you look, the numbers are actually facing towards the engine. Like if you were the passenger, you'd be able to read it from that side. So you just have to slide this out on each side. And we're gonna get these out of the way. On the driver's side, you have this little plastic push rivet right here that you're gonna need to get out of the way. Next, take out the 6 10 millimeters and 3 on this end as well. You know, people might be tempted to try to sneak this valve cover gasket or the valve cover out, and it's not worth it. Watch this. We just took those out. Very simple steps. Oh yeah, look at that. opened it right up. Make sure to watch the entire video so you don't make any mistakes that could cost you money. Please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let me know what you think of this repair. So the next step, you can see that this foam piece is just held down in those same locations that held down that vanity cover. So you just have to lift it up over those spots. Sometimes this foam can become brittle, so be careful. You can see right here how it's cracking. If I just rip this right off, I'd probably damage it. So make sure to lift it up over these locations and sneak it out in one piece. You don't want water to build up back here, because I've actually seen where water has pooled in this back corner, and it can damage injectors, and it can make it so the valve cover doesn't come off, and actually could cause major engine damage. All right, so we're gonna work on taking the harness out. It's kind of funny, but I watched a couple of other videos, other YouTubers, just to see how they did some of these and what they said. And Eat Sleep Drive said that this was a vacuum line. This is not a vacuum line. This is your connection for your Valvetronic motor right here. 2 press tabs, and just pull it straight up. And you can take the harness and just move it out of the way. Unplug your oxygen sensor connections right here. You can pop them out of the holder. You can't mix these up, so you can just press and slide them out. Electronic pneumatic wastegate converter has this little just press tab. So you press it down and wiggle that out. I'll show you that real quick. Just press it down like so, pop that off. We're gonna pop that off the holder right there. Actually, we'll just leave that on and we'll take out the T30. That holds the whole bracket. And guess what? We can just leave the bracket there, and then it can help you to remember how to put it back on. You just swing that up and out of the way. Quick tip, if you're not sure where some of these screws are gonna go, put them back in the same location that you took them from, because this doesn't hold anything down, and you'll remember how to swap it over. So this type of pliers works really good to get the connecting down here, where you have to press both sides at the same time. And when it's brittle, it's good to just be able to put a little bit of tension on it and gently wiggle that free like so. This is your vacuum supply from your vacuum pump. So we're just going to move that out of the way as well. So this part of the valve cover is a vacuum reservoir that comes down here. This is a vacuum tube, and there's a plug. So you have to make sure on your new valve cover that you have the plug in one open port. We have to take off this vacuum line that goes down to your electronic pneumatic wastegate converter, also called an EPDW, and that's what activates the turbocharger wastegate. So a lot of people struggle with this. Just take a screwdriver, go straight down. There's this opening right here, and you're just going to gently lever downwards, and this should pop off nice and easy. So we're going to work on the wiring harness. You're going to want to disconnect your coils. If you lift up and gently pull out, you're going to want to have these come loose. And then your injectors are held on by a little tab right here, and you're just going to gently pry that back slightly. And if I leave the screwdriver in there, I should be able to just lift that out. Just like that. Now with all of that harness loose, I'm going to take off the 3 8mm nuts right here across the top. 2 T25s for the harness. These are self-tapping screws. That's going to enable me to go ahead and lift off the harness here as a complete piece, and just flip that over the top and out of your way. There's also another large power wire back here that goes into the groove of the valve cover. You might have a zip tie back here that you have to cut or break off. That one's already broken, and you have to pull it out of its channel. There's a little holder down here, a little metal tab that you have to pull that harness out of, which is right here, that C-style spring clip, and that should free this up enough so that you can lift this up. And in general, it's out of the way. That should be high enough. You can take it off here because we do have the battery disconnected, and flip the whole thing over if you'd like. In my opinion, it is a bit easier So you just pull this cover here straight back, and you have a 13 right here. Just take that off, flip that over there. I'm going to take my 13, put it back right here. At this point, I'd go ahead and recommend blowing out all the debris. Make sure you have safety glasses. All right, that's all clean. The next step is to take these coils out. If you get fuel on these coils, that makes them swell and they will fail. So a lot of times these coils are hard to pop out. That one actually was not hard to pop out, so that's nice. Let's see the next one. All right, so these are pretty easy, but there's a trick that you can do if they are hard to pop out. Take a screwdriver, slide it through the little holder, the lock tab for the electric connector, and just gently pull up. And it's easier on the fingers at that point too. You can see just like that. And pull up. Let's get these out because we don't want to damage these boots right here. So there's a T25 right here that holds some AC lines on. We have to take that off. You do have to take your crankcase return with heater off right here. And this is notorious for breaking. So I would always recommend to replace this, but there's 4 tabs. So I'd like to start with the bottom and put some backward pressure, and we'll slowly just use a pick and work my way around with pulling it gently. And look at that. No need to use any special dimes, nickels, quarters, or pennies. Start at the bottom with some downward and outward pressure and just hook it, hook it, hook it. It'll get caught on the lip, come out. I didn't even break it. So I could reuse this, although I have a new one, and I'm going to put a new one in for my friend. Now the electrical connector down here, there's another press tab, so you have to press that and pop that off, and then you can move the wiring out of the way. You might need a pick to get on that. And then there's one torque screw right down here to then pop this out. So with a long extension, you can just get in there and catch that T25 and back that out. I would also use a magnet to catch the bolt as it comes out. So this is ready to come out, but I'm going to leave it in place. You can hear that it is brittle. The next step is to relieve the fuel pressure and remove the fuel lines. You can see this is the same, this is the same. These are different for cylinders 5 and 6. Make sure to wear safety glasses. You're going to take a rag or a shop towel. You want to tuck it in and around. And I'm going to relieve the pressure back here first at the fuel rail. And my battery is disconnected. And it just sprayed me in the face. Good thing I have safety glasses on. I got fuel right in my mouth. Make sure to tuck a rag in and go put your wrench on, go over the top, because fuel can still spray up and out. Ask me how I know. And release them. Let the pressure drain. And your rag is going to just catch it, and then go ahead and back that out. That's for one side of the line. We have to do the other side too, but I'm going to go down the full length. Go ahead and just back off the nuts for them. Once that side is done, then you're going to come over to the injector well side, and same thing, you're going to just crack these free and then take them off. You're going to get some fuel in here. We're going to need to blow this out. So if you put your coils back in here and there's any residual fuel in the spark plug holes, it will destroy your coils. And you can see this comes off just like this. Doesn't really matter if it falls apart. You can figure it out just like so. When you go back in, you're just going to separate them, and this piece is going to sit right in there. At this point, you're just going to take off these E6s. This is for the Valvetronic motor gasket, and slide the gasket up and out. Might need a pick. Simply remove. Always replace this gasket. There is a removal and tightening torque sequence that helps prevent damage to the valve cover if you're reusing it or when you have a new one, so you don't crack it. Alright, the first one's down in this lower corner right here. I prefer a swivel that I've wrapped with electrical tape to give it some reinforcement. And this is an E10, and you want to make sure you're fully seated and crack it free first by hand to make sure it feels right. And then go ahead and zip it off. it is captured, so it's not going to come off. 2's all the way up in this opposite corner. Now it goes 3, which is, we'll call it number 3 bucket to the right, and then number 1 bucket to the left. Then we have 5 middle bucket bottom, and 6 front bucket bottom left. 7, 8. 9 and 10 are the last bucket all the way at the far wall. 9 on the bottom, 10 on top. 11, first bucket all the way to the right. Oop, actually that's 12. That should be 11 as top. Not that I think it really matters, but take the center one out is 13, and then the one to the right is 14. 15 is right below the Valvetronic motor. 16 is the one to the left of that, near the EPDW. 17 is the one to the left of the top center. 18 is the one to the right of the PCV. Then we have 19, which is just below the PCV, or yeah, PCV heater line. 19 is just below the crankcase heater line here, and 20 is all the way in the far corner back here. Alright, so I'm not gonna lie, this back one is the most difficult to get to, and let me show you the setup that I have. And you saw how I'm coming up kind of at a weird angle this way, and I'm using my swivel E10 on a regular small stubby, and then these are called plus extensions, and they can either be straight, or if you back them out 1 notch, they actually turn into a wobble. And I have a double on here, which actually enables me to get that weird angle. You can see just like that to get to that. And you want to be careful. You don't want to strip that one because there is not really any good access to it. You might be dropping or pulling the motor if you damage that one. 21 and 22. 23, top one all the way on the right. Just below that. 25 below that. 26 all the way in the far back center. Now this is important. The last one is hidden under this holder. So you have a Torx right here, and that's going to take this holder off. I'm just going to push that out of the way, and you can see it's actually right down here. Take this little holder and you can actually feed it up through here and push that out of the way also. That gives me access to, I believe, the last one. Alright, now with all of those removed, just take a screwdriver, gently pry in a corner, and if you got all the screws out and nothing's holding you, it should release the valve cover. We need to come straight up. A lot of times there's a couple of these screws that just kind of recatch for you. You have to find which ones they are and pull them out and free them up. There it is. It was those in the center. They just catch like a couple little threads. All right, move the crankcase line out of the way. I'm clear. A lot of times these gaskets get stuck and they'll catch you when you're trying to come out. There we go. And up. And over. Nice and easy. Always good to look the drivetrain over for any signs of gunk or damage. Everything looks nice and clean. For me, the valve cover gasket actually stayed on the cylinder head, so I have to peel the valve cover gasket off and get that out of the way. And this is what will hold you up. If this is super brittle, you might have to peel this off as you're trying to get the valve cover off. And we'll feed that up and get that out of the way. So now you want to be really conscious of what you're doing because you don't want to drop anything inside the engine. You're going to just take a rag and you're going to go around and wipe off any debris from all around the edges and the residual oil as the next step all around the perimeter. Now that I have the perimeter wiped down of any dirt, I'm going to take some 3M Scotch-Brite and I'm going to just gently go over all of the area to remove any of the residual gasket or debris that may cause a raised edge. And I'm going to go around the entire thing and do this. Once that's done, take a little bit of brake clean on a rag and just take that edge, and I'm going to now go ahead and remove any oil, residual oil, in the same thing. So I'm basically going to wipe it one more time. So this is number 3 cleaning. And don't forget to do the top of the injector wells because this is a sealing surface as well. And I am all clean and ready to go. But this is the point where it's easier access to this crankcase hose right here. So it's time to put this crankcase hose in before we put the valve cover on. So take a semi-long screwdriver, flathead, come down in here and just gently twist out the heater. Like so. Right, I have my new one. Do yourself a favor, put a little bit of white lithium grease on the seal. It'll go in easier. Line it up. You can see how flexible this hose is compared to the crunchy one that we took off. If you stand towards the front of the engine, you can get your hand in here, get that lined up, and get your screw started. You might have to rotate it slightly. There we go, it's all started. And then with your long extension, and I'm right down here, gently run it in. Right, remember to put the vacuum cap from the old valve cover. I'm going to gently go under everything, and you want to drop it straight down so you don't pull the gasket out. So you just want to slowly work everything in and make sure everything's out of your way. Take your time. Lift it back up a little bit. Check the back. Make sure your gasket didn't come out. Feels good. Drop her straight down. And I'm going to just catch 2 corners here. So I'm centered. And we're on our way. Now I'll show you the torque spec again, which is 8.5 Newton meters, and the torque sequence. I'll post that up there. And the best thing that you could really do, in my opinion, if you want to try to be as careful as possible, is run all of these in. And if you really want to be careful, run them in by hand first, just to preseat. But you're supposed to do 1 and 2 first to 8.5 Newton meters, and then follow the torque sequence. But your best bet is to get all of these started and partially drawn down, then start your torque sequence. Okay, following the torque sequence 1 and 2, and it is 8.5, which is not much. 3, third bucket to the right. 4, first bucket to the left. 5, 6, middle bucket to the left here. And 6. 7, 8 is middle bucket, top left and top right. 9 and 10 are these 2 back here, third bucket all the way back. 11, 12. 13, 14. So this is different than removal. 15, 16 are down around the EPDW. Tool first before torquing it. 17, 18. 19 and 20 is the bad one in the back corner. So 19's here, not quite the full front one. And then the one in the far back. Seated my tool first. And I'm using really just a straighter extension with that wobble, which will give me a more accurate torque. And this one, take your time with. There she is. That's the hard one. 21, 22. You know, if you're not sure, put a little bit of a paint mark or something on them. 23, 24, 25. 23, 24, 25. And 26 straight back under that cover for the battery cable. And that's all. It's all 26. I always like to use a new cap. Valvetronic gasket. I got 2 new screws for the Valvetronic. That's the E8. Just gonna gently snug these down. Plug in the heater for the crankcase. A little bit of white lith. And I can go ahead and lock in my crankcase heater with 2 hands. There we go. Remember to blow out all of the holes. Spark plugs are done. If you want to see a video on how to do spark plugs on N55, click this link up in the corner. Next step, we're going to take our battery holder and put that back into place. And remember, we had a torque screw here. Don't want to forget to plug in our vacuum line. So here's our vacuum line right here, going to the valve cover that goes down to the EPDW, which activates the turbocharger wastegate. And we have to do our wiring also. Battery holder screw, check. So I'm going to be putting a catless downpipe on this also. So I don't know if I'm going to put this together now or how I'm going to segue these, but I need to pop my O2 sensor lines off so that I can feed them down for when I do the catless downpipe. I'm going to go ahead and lay the lines for the injectors. This little rubber piece sits right in the valve cover, and it's like a little guide. Just going to gently lay them in place for now, and then just catch a couple threads on each one loosely. First, we'll do this front one. So you want to make sure that this rubber piece is sitting correctly and it's relatively down all the way. And then I would just tighten these by hand to start. And let's do the other ones. Then you want to snug down your fuel lines. And you would need a crow's foot to torque these. So I just use the good and tight rule here and go by feel. All right, so I'm going to run the power cable along that back edge, and then it flips up, goes into the holder down here, and then we're going to hook it back up to the 13mm screw right here. All right, put that on. Gently snug that down. Pop the cover on. Okay, routing the injector ignition harness in place, and that just rests right along these clips. It locks in right here and sits along this channel. Then there's the 2 screws. When you screw these in, they're going to cut some new threads, and that's why these are like a self-tapping screw. Another self-tapping screw here in the front. And remember the one for the AC line. All right, now let's plug in your injectors down the row. And you really can't mix these up, and they just slide right in and they have a little lock tab. So that's bucket 1, you're gonna do bucket 2 and bucket 3. Make sure to place all of your grounds. These are important grounds. If these are not installed, you could actually cause damage to your engine control unit. I've seen these loose and they cause some weird problems. So make sure to snug these down. Make sure to hit all 3. Okay, sliding in the ignition coil. And then you mate them together with this part up, and then they should come down and lock in. And there is a little V in here that rubber sits in. You can see that right here. And do the same thing for the other one. We're just going to do bucket 1 and then just continue down the row because it's really the same thing. O2 sensor holder bracket. O2 sensor bracket goes on this bottom hole right here. You have a raised one here. It goes on the bottom one. Valvetronic motor, plug that sucker in while we're here. We have the EPDW plugs and the plug for the O2 sensor. You can't mix these up, so if it doesn't go in, try the other one. And you can tell if you look at the connector which ones go where. These O2 sensors are now run to a catless downpipe. Separate video on that. I'll put a link up in the corner here once that's done. And then the EPDW plug is right down here, right there. We've got the Valvetronic. Okay, we got to plug in our vacuum line. It's looking good. Make sure to hook up the battery in the back. And now we're going to start it and make sure we don't have any leaks coming from any of our fittings onto the injectors. All right, we're keying it on. Now this has the new intercooler, the new charge air pipe, and the cat has been removed. So we have the catless downpipe. Let's see what it sounds like. Checking for any fuel leaks. I don't smell anything. Everything looks good. Sounds good. Alright, we have to swap over the little holders for the vanity cover from the old valve cover to the new valve cover. 15mm, and you just unscrew them. And you just bump my garlic. Alright, so put the foam in place, and you can kind of tell, if you remember, that they sit over all of these little locations that you put the vanity cover on. If you put the 2 screws in the back, you can see that there's a slot, so you can use them as a guide. And then just run your 10s in along the perimeter. Don't forget the little push tab right here. Okay, reinforcement bracket. And remember I showed you the part numbers. You have the 2 screws there, and you have the screws on the side. And go ahead and torque these 2 good and tight. Don't forget to put the rubber caps on. Then we just have the 2 side panels. They lock in here, and then rest straight down and push down over in that corner, and then you just lock them in with a 90-degree twist, which just takes a little lever and puts it up underneath like this. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. All right, rubber piece, and then we tuck this in after. And just start on one side, and it just pushes back. into the lip right here.
Yep.
And then this piece actually flips over the top and engages it like so, just to seal it up. And then we have this right here. Remember, this just gets tucked in nice and easy. It's not hard at all. Tuck that in all along the perimeter. I'm all out of parts, and I don't even think I have any extra parts except for the old parts that we took off to do some of the other repairs. And that's the valve cover. I also have a video coming up on replacing the charge air pipe. We put a new intercooler, and we put a catless downpipe, so make sure to check that out in a future video. Time to take this for a quick ride and make sure everything sounds great. Hey, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let me know what you think of this repair. All right, let's hear it. One more time, let's hear it.